welcome to Long Lost Friends. I'm Elizabeth Eve King.
And I'm Andrea Goyan. Elizabeth and I used to do improv comedy together back when we were 19.
But we lost touch.
And then a couple of years ago, we found each other again and discovered
I'd become a painter, a writer, a performer, a Pilates teacher, an animal lover, and a biologist.
Hey, I'm a painter, performer, writer, Pilates teacher, animal lover, and well, okay, I'm not a biologist, but we're long lost
friends.
And we're both speculative fiction writers.
My work has appeared in MetaStellar.
MetaStellar, for those of you who don't know, is an online magazine that specializes in publishing original science fiction, horror, and fantasy. There's a link below.
Today, we are so excited to chat with Madeleine Holly-Rosing. She's the award-winning writer-creator of the steampunk supernatural series and graphic novel Boston Metaphysical Society. The Boston Metaphysical Society is about an ex-Pinkerton detective, a spirit photographer, and a genius scientist who battles supernatural forces in the late 1800s Boston.
But before we get started talking about the book, we want to talk about your pets. So can you show us one of them?
Sure, I can show you one of the first one is Bishop.
Aww.
Bishop is so cute. I love
so
Oreos.
Yeah, he was a rescue pup. We've had him for about 8 years. And yeah, he got into the plastic peanuts last night, but did not eat any, so we're good.
Oh, good. He's adorable.
He's really cute. He's a big old mutt like my dog.
Oh yeah, we think he's part Dalmatian and part pointer.
Wow.
Oh.
So he's a good sized dog.
Lots of energy, lots and lots of energy.
Really cute. Well,
Glad he didn't eat the peanuts.
yes.
No, he did not.
So today we'd like to focus on the Boston Metaphysical Society. Where'd the story idea come from?
Well, I have been a science fiction fan for years and I love history. So steampunk kind of melded them all together. And the original idea was first developed when I was in the MFA program in screenwriting at UCLA. And it was a TV pilot that I had written, which it kind of made the rounds and people liked it. But this was before steampunk had really hit mainstream. So people didn't really know what to do with it. And except those who said, why don't you turn it into a graphic novel and then bring it back to Hollywood? So I said, okay, that's a great idea. So I went back to school and learned how to write a comic, because it's not like writing a screenplay. It's similar, but not quite the same. And adapted it into a 6-issue miniseries. But in the process of all this, I discovered that I really loved writing comics. And I really loved the independent creator community. And so I just kept going.
So what is an independent creator community? Because I've never heard of something like that.
Essentially, we're self-published.
Okay.
Or with small press. I've been very fortunate in, well, the first 6 years, we were self-published, and then I was picked up by Source Point Press, and they then republished the original 6 issues, the trade paperback that was adapted from the TV pilot, and the 4 sequels that are all out now. And yeah, you can check those out with the link below. And but we also, a lot of us use Kickstarter, and arguably Kickstarter is the 3rd largest publisher of comics now, behind Marvel and DC.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know we're going to chat about that later. So I wanted to ask you about the graphic behind you. That's from your book, right? Or from your series?
This is actually the CD cover for our audio drama. It is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's our first ever audio drama. It's called The Ghost Ship. It is currently on Kickstarter right now. Also, there'll be a link below for that. We, as of today, October 30th, we are 90% funded of our $10,000 goal. We have 19 more days to go, so I'm pretty confident we're gonna make it and probably hit some stretch goals as well.
Yay.
But yeah, we still have to get some people on board to make that first funding goal. But yeah, the audio drama is called The Ghost Ship, which is why you have like this ghostly image. And the cover was done by my cover artist for the 4 sequels of our graphic novels. Her name is Gwen Tavares. I do only hire female artists for my graphic novels because I'm the boss and I write the check, so I can do that.
It's beautiful.
And besides, she's fantastic. And Emily Hugh was the artist on our original 6-issue miniseries. And then she moved on to bigger and better. And then Gwen came on board. But both have been an absolute delight to work with.
Now, you said you're cover artist, but is it a different artist from the one who does the interior?
No, Gwen does the interior as well. But for the CD, of course, you're just going to have a cover because there's no interior. So yeah, Gwen did the cover for what will be the CD when we produce the CDs for the audio drama.
So once you get started, because I understand that it's a big difference in writing for a comic book or a graphic novel. So you write the novel, and then as you're working with the artist, is there a lot of changing that happens? I know it does with picture books, for instance. A lot of times when the artist comes in, they say, well, we could show this in a picture rather than write it out. But it's different, I know, with a graphic novel. So how much rewriting do you do as you're working with the artist?
Actually, I know I work differently, and everyone is going to be different. And it's not a novel, it's a script. It's an actual script of where I will panel out how many panels per page, what's going on in each panel, the dialogue for each panel. Much like a film script, a comic, well, actually I take that back. It's not. A comic book script is a communication document to your artist, colorist, letterer, and probably pre-press person. So you have a team involved, and so you do write for them so they know what to do. So they know what their job is. Now, depending on your artist, I will always take words just escape me, suggestions on how to change something in the script or modify something, and discuss it with the artist. But there's certain ways you can write in a script when a certain element must be in a panel in order for character and story development. So it really depends on where the power is in the relationship and where the story is.
You said artist and letterist, I get, but you said a colorist. Do you have a separate colorist?
It so happens in my sequels that Gwen, who is my artist, is also the colorist as well. In the original 6-issue miniseries, I had 2 colorists on board, and because the skill sets are very different, and some people are able to do all of it, and are gifted that way, but not everybody is. Someone who is a penciler can't necessarily ink something, and they can't necessarily color something. So there is a lot of production steps involved in making a graphic novel.
And are they done, I mean, it's probably both, but are they done on the computer or are they done by hand?
It depends on the artist. I know Gwen, I believe Gwen does it all computerized. I know Emily did it all digitally as well. There's some artists who still do it by hand and then scan it in, but most artists do it digitally now.
They do the whole drawing thing digitally.
Correct. And the coloring. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. But it really depends on the artist and how they want to work.
When you went back to school, I'm sorry, Elizabeth, when you went back to school, where did you go for that? And was that a long process to learn how to do graphic novels?
Um, no, really, it wasn't. Well, it's a constantly learning process because
Sure,
we're
sure.
always learning. So it really, that really never ends. But no, I went to UCLA Extension when they were still offering sequential art classes, which is a fancy word for comics. Because comics are sequential art, but that's what they are. And I had an amazing teacher and classmates, which I have no doubt helped make Boston Metaphysical better and what it is today. But yeah, I took about three or four classes, but kept working with those people, you know, getting feedback. Like any other creative endeavor, you can't create in a vacuum.
Right.
Yeah.
How did you meet your current, like, well, the person, the artist, and colorist is the same, also letterist? Is there a separate letterist? How did you
Yeah.
meet them in your program?
Well, Troy Pateri is my letterer, and he's been my letterer throughout the entire series, except for issue 4 in our original 6-issue miniseries when he was too busy. I was at a convention with a friend of mine who was selling her book, and we started out as a web comic. In fact, you can still read the first 6 issues online if you want for free. And she says, oh, you can take a corner of my table and just hand out postcards and tell people about your comic. And so I did that, and Troy happened to come up to the table because they knew each other and they were chatting. And so she introduced me, and she says, oh, he loves to do independent comics, talk to him. So I showed him a script and he says, yeah, I'll do it. I said, okay. And little did I know, he's like this incredibly talented top shelf letterer, journeyman. And you know, I hope I never lose him. He's getting incredibly busy now, but so yeah, I met him through a mutual friend. Emily Hugh, who was the artist on the original 6-issue miniseries, I met through a mutual friend in one of my sequential art classes. And then she and I met, talked. I hired her to do sample audition pages from 2 different types of pages from the script. Hired her immediately because she did an amazing job. And then when she moved on, I'd been in the independent creator community for like five years by then. So people knew who I was and what I was doing. And so I put the word out that I was looking for a new female artist for Boston Metaphysical. And a friend of mine came to me and he says, hey, I think Gwen would fit. So I looked at her portfolio and I'm going like, yeah, I'm going to, you know, contact her. But he had already told her and she contacted me, and we did the same thing. And like I did with Emily, she nailed it and brought her on board. And she's been with me now for the past 4 sequels, which is basically 4 years.
So it sounds like when you started writing, you kind of started writing comics, graphic novels. Is that correct?
No, I was writing screenplays. I come from a screenplay background. Yeah.
Screenplays. Okay.
Yeah.
But I can see how that would translate a little.
It does translate because they're both visual writing. The big difference is there is that in a comic script, I can direct, and you have to, you know, you have to.
Yeah, I was going to say you almost become the filmmaker completely.
You are the director, the producer, particularly if you're an independent, you're all of the above. And
Exciting.
Yeah, and then as opposed to a film script where they just want the bare bones script, and then another team comes on board and does everything else.
And ruins your vision for you.
Well, it depends on who comes on board.
Yes.
Sometimes they can make it better.
No, that's true. They can.
Yeah.
But it is nice sort of to have it all yourself, have the control, I imagine.
Yeah. This is entirely my IP. The publishing company I'm with, Source Point Press, it's creator owned, which means they never take our IP. They don't have any rights to our IP, the creators that are with them. But that also means that the responsibility for getting things done is on me. I mean,
So-
I have, yeah.
Yeah, so you said it takes a year, each sequel has taken a year. So how long are they? And it's it's a year process for each one? About?
About, yeah. The first one, which was called The Scourge of the Mechanical Men, that one I think was about 30 pages long. I call them more like graphic novellas because a standard American comic is 22 pages. And so I wanted to have a standalone story in each one, in each sequel. And then each one started getting longer and longer. And then I think the next one was like 35 and the next one was like 30 something. And then our last one, which actually a book of demons, which is just you can pick that up for Source Point now. Let's see if I can get that in front of us.
Oops.
Here we go.
Oh,
Most
yeah.
of it, yeah, it's in and out.
In and out. There we
Yeah,
go.
but then we see her behind you.
Yes. That one's 41 pages.
You're going to be the George Martin or the Tolstoy of graphic novels, huh?
No, because that's too expensive. Yeah, people don't understand, how much it costs. Comics are expensive to produce. So
actually, that's once you make, because like with a book, so much now, ebooks or the comics, I imagine would be different, right? I mean, people want the actual comic more than online. Or am I wrong? That's a question.
That goes to depends. It depends on people's budget. Also their space. I go digital for a lot of new comics, particularly if they're on Kickstarter. If I don't know them that well, just to get a taste of what it is, and I can easily read it on my computer. Because I don't have the space for any more comics in my house, and I've run into a lot of people who have that same problem. So yeah, digital works. Digital's great.
Digital's great. Okay.
Yeah.
Super.
Well, thank you so much. I'm really excited to look into the Boston Metaphysical Society and the ex-Pinkerton detective. I love that whole world, and spirit photographer and everything. It sounds really cool.
It really does. I'm looking forward to it too. It's brand new introduction for me, so yay.
I've kept familiar with it, but I'm excited to see the whole new process of it. So thank you very, very much for talking to us. And
thank you.
We end each segment with the best thing I learned this week, which can be almost anything. I usually start, and this is a little departure for me, but this is just, I think, the most amusing thing to me. Is that ever since like with Dave Chappelle's last show and all the discussion about trans women, is that suddenly all these men are coming out telling us what feminists they are. So all these men are saying, well, I'm a feminist. And they're even talking about menstruation, the dreaded N-word. I never heard any man, they'd like leave the room if you talked about menstruation. It's out suddenly, women menstruate. So I think that's very amusing. So I'm going to say that's the funniest thing I heard, at least.
Do you remember when we were young? I mean, certainly when we were young, now I don't use them, but like trying to hide your feminine products, like up your sleeve or something to go to the bathroom because you didn't want anyone to know you were menstruating. Anyway, okay. Mine is just a cool thing I was reading about. It's interesting. Elizabeth will particularly like this. Newport Beach, there is some group of people who are taking out an artificial reef that was put in 1998. And it's made up of 1,500 tires, 2,000 plastic jugs, I'm reading this, and 100 sections of PVC pipe. And they put it down to try to create an artificial reef, but they found out that it didn't attach to the floor of the ocean. So all that's on it are the kinds of marine life that would be on the bottom of boats. So it's just a bunch of garbage, basically, in some. So they're taking it back out, which is cool. But it's too bad it didn't work, because you're going to go work on artificial reefs, right?
I am. But my artificial reef it's not really an artificial reef. I'm going to Bonaire, where they have a lab and they actually grow coral. And they were growing both. There are some places where they grow elkhorn and the branching corals, staghorn. Those are the most common kind to grow, but they also grow boulder corals, which are very difficult to grow. So they grow them in the lab, and then when they're able, they start planting them in the ocean on these trees. And last year, one of the reefs they planted even spawned. And so I'm going to be working maybe some in the lab, but also doing a lot of the attaching the corals to these trees and then going around and cleaning them.
So what are the trees made of, Elizabeth?
Well, they're wire and
Oh, okay.
maybe some plastic trees. And it's like you've almost attached little bits of coral, and the coral is then it's fixed into the floor, so they start growing and grounding, and then when they actually spawn, the new little coral animals that are swimming around can land and grow on that substrate.
That's cool.
So yeah, I'm excited about that. So they're not artificial reefs in the sense of artificial. They're actual coral animals that have been grown in the lab.
Very cool.
Interesting.
So Madeleine, what was the weirdest, best, oddest thing you learned this week?
Well, I don't think it's weird or odd, but it was good. Something a little more practical. We had our wedding anniversary on October 16th. Sorry, it was our 22nd anniversary. And in the midst of putting together over 600 Kickstarter packages from our previous Kickstarter campaign, which is a lot. My husband bought me a thermal label printer. So my big thing was learning how to use the thermal label printer and just cranking out batches of labels for packages to go out. So that was wonderful because it saved me hours of time.
Yeah, that makes
What's
perfect
the thermal laser printer?
Yeah, it's a thermal label printer.
What is it? What is it? Why is it thermal?
Oh, it's because it goes on, it's already on, has a sticky back. So as each one comes off, it separates, and then you can peel off the back and immediately smack it onto the box.
Very cool.
It saves a whole lot of time and effort.
Great. Great. Well, thank you so much. And of
Thank
course,
you.
we always want to thank Maria and Alex Korolov for producing and editing. We couldn't do it without you.
We couldn't. And we also want to thank you, who our viewers, our listeners, whatever you're called when it's a Zoom show. And if you enjoyed this video and our discussion with Madeleine Holly-Rosing, please like it and feel free to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss future episodes. And if you want to help support MetaStellar, the publication, and everything else that we do, check out our Patreon page. The entire publication is run by volunteers. So all of the money and all donations go to help support new fiction so that we can pay our authors a decent professional salary. Well, it's not really a salary, but a wage, whatever you would call it. What would you call it, Elizabeth?
Great.
Rate per word. We can pay them pennies for the word.
But it's really great, and it gives us new material all the time. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Madeleine.
Thank you very much.
And we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.